Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It is Thursday, well, what are we? The 4th of June, and lockdown is staying alert. Easing of lockdown continues. I hope that you are all well and all safe, and all that your loved ones, friends and family are safe as well, and beginning to enjoy, at least in the UK, some of the kind of renewed activities that we're kind of feeling our way back towards a semblance of whatever the new normal might be going forward. And I wanted to start off this week by reading out an email that's coming from one of you guys, because I am utterly blown away all the time by the wonderful things that you write in and contribute to the Facebook page, but also tell me about your stories and your particular lives and what's going on in your lives over email. And we had an email in over the past 2 weeks, which I just really wanted to share with you all, because I think it's a stunning example of how someone has completely used the lockdown to the best possible potential that it brought along. So this is someone called Liz Reeves, and Liz has been very kind. She's allowed me and said that we can share her story on the Facebook Q&A with you guys. Hello everyone, hello. Thank you all so much for tuning in. John, Scott from Missouri, USA. Linda, hello from Shropshire. Lovely to see you all. So Liz Reeves, now what makes this initially so brilliant is that Liz is 84 years old. So Liz is 84 years old and is in better command of technology than any 84-year-old I've ever come across, because Liz has been following us on the Facebook page and has been part of the Facebook community, and particularly since the lockdown over the Q&As, and has been looking for different resources to keep her occupied. She's obviously in the category of having to have shielded away for most of the last sort of 10 weeks or so, and has been kind of frankly a little bit bored and has been wanting things to do and to get interested in. And with the help of her daughter, she has rekindled her love of classics and ancient history that began, she tells me in her email, back in the 1950s when she chose to study Greek and Roman history. And little did she know back in the 1950s that it would be part of what has now become a lifelong fascination with the culture and literature of the region. And at 84, in lockdown, shielding away, she has turned to the wonders of modern technology to re-engage with all the fantastic resources that people have been putting together, and we've been pulling together on the Facebook page and putting out there also through the Warwick Classics Network, and all the great ideas and thoughts that you guys have been contributing. And Liz has written in to say how much she has been enjoying it, how much she has really kind of found it a kind of a surreal experience, but a wonderful one, to have rediscovered and to have got so engaged with the ancient world through the wonders of modern technology, while facing one of the kind of most unique threats of her life, her long life, the pandemic, and having to keep indoors for the last 10 weeks or so. Hello, Kelly from Devonport, Tasmania. Thank you so much for tuning in. Brilliant to see you. Hello, Rosie. Hello. So, Liz, if you are listening, I want to say a massive hello to you, a massive thank you to you, and also a massive awesome, just simply awesome. If I'm doing this when you are 80, when I am 84, I will be well pleased indeed. So a huge hats off to you, Liz, and to all of you who have been doing such brilliant things to keep yourselves entertained, occupied during the lockdown. So many other great things have been happening this week, and the questions you've been writing in, we have an absolutely jam-packed half hour here. So the first thing off, of course, this is prize week. So as you may know, as many of you know, once a month we look back at all the questions that we've been able to get through and answer on the Q&As, and we single out one that has been absolutely superb and has really kind of caught the zeitgeist of the community here, and that person gets a prize. So if I can find the list, here we are for the prize week. We've had some brilliant questions in that we've managed to answer over the last month. We've talked about learning in ancient Rome. We've talked about criminals and the justice system in ancient Rome. We've talked about items that you would take home from any museum. We've talked about if you were writing a new ancient Greek play, what would be the theme. We've talked about the designs of new major museums. We've talked about the great philosophical insights of the Delphic Oracle, places to go. We've talked about Roman spies. All these, a smorgasbord, as always, of things that we've discussed and talked about. But I think this month, the prize goes to Chloe Scott, and this is absolutely not because we share a surname and I declare right now that she's no relation whatsoever, so this is not an insider job in any way. But Chloe, brilliant question. If you could persuade Disney to make a film of another Greek myth, like they did Disney's Hercules, and which of course is being remade as a feature-length film right now, what would it be? And that got us really all sparking off with some absolutely brilliant answers that were coming through. So Chloe, congratulations, you win the prize this month. Do get in touch through the Facebook page or via michaelscottacademic@gmail.com, and we will sort out a prize for you coming your way. So do get in touch. Thank you so much, and keep your fantastic questions coming in as afterwards. And I really am sorry that I don't get through more of your brilliant questions. There are so many to get through, and so many things to share with you all as well. So 2 more announcements before we get on to some questions. The first is, and this is again coming from you guys, and thank you so much, because I love it when suggestions come in from you about things that we can do and focus on and how we can work together and think together and share our love of the ancient world together. And this is from J. Matthew Reever, who I saw that the rain is in Fiesole in Italy, where he is today. I'm very sorry to hear that. We have lost the sunshine here in the UK as well. And that was talking a little bit off the back of the suggestion that came in about having live Q&As focused around particular sites that we were really interested in the ancient world. And we put up a post about that in the Facebook group, and you came back with some brilliant suggestions. It was really interesting to see the sorts of places that you all ended up coalescing around. There's a lot of you wanted to go and think a bit more about Delphi, always up for that, good choice, but also Leptis Magna was a really high priority for you all. And I would put alongside that Cyrene as well, another one of the ancient Greek settlements in modern-day Libya. Knossos, a number of you wanted to visit and know about. Crac de Chevalier in Syria, Crusader Castle, brilliant, love. I managed to visit that once in 2010, absolutely loved it. But also thinking about the great and lesser known sites in the Balkans, kind of particularly the Roman sites in the Balkans. Completely agree with you, we should be focusing on those. Troy, a couple of you were thinking about. Petra as well, that you want to visit. Palmyra, obviously. Aphrodisias, excellent suggestion. Corinth, and of course Sicily made its way in there as well. So there were some great suggestions of places that we could focus on for the Q&As, and we'll definitely do that. But in the meantime, J. Matthew also came up with a brilliant idea about creating, linked to the Facebook page, a community group on Facebook. So this would be a space linked to, but separate from, the Facebook page, where you guys can actually lead, run, and have completely discussions of your own, right, about these particular sites, but perhaps as an initial kind of point of launch off, and then about anything to do with the ancient world that you want to kind of run your own discussion forums on. So thank you so much for this suggestion, and we are going to do this. So we are going to set up the Professor Michael Scott Classics community group page that will run alongside and be linked to the Facebook page, and we'll send this out. You have to either like or follow our page, the Professor Michael Scott page, to be able to join the community group page. And there will be some moderation of discussions, but not approval of individual posts. So people will be able to post and discuss in real time as they want to about the different issues. But there will be some moderation of the discussion, just so that everyone's keeping to the house rules. And the house rules, as ever, are the house rules that we apply to any posting on our page. It's about being kind and courteous. It's about absolutely no hate speech or bullying. It's about no promotions or spam. And also, of course, respecting everyone's privacy. So we'll put those rules up on the community group page, and we'll do a light touch moderation to make sure everyone's complying with those. But in the meantime, that will be a fantastic space. And what I would like to suggest is that we set this up with a few discussion posts to get going on the key sites that you have talked about, because perhaps some of you have visited them already. So you could be sharing your photos, your thoughts, your insights, the things about those sites you particularly liked, which people who wanted to go to them but haven't yet had the opportunity to go can benefit from. But then also in a couple of weeks' time, we can pick up one of those sites. I can be looking at some of the community group posts and photos, and then we can bring that into a live Q&A discussion and actually incorporate some of the stuff you've been thinking about and contributing and discussing, and then we can bring that in and further that on the Q&A as well. So that will be launching tomorrow, the Professor Michael Scott community group classics community page, and hopefully it will offer you the chance to really get those discussions and sharing going, and take it in the directions that you want to do. So thank you for that suggestion. Thank you for your enthusiasm to discuss the ancient world. It's brilliant. Final announcement before we actually get going on some questions. And this again comes out of something that you guys came up with a couple of weeks ago on the back of me doing a reading of one of the speeches of the beginnings, was of Euripides Politis, wasn't it? That we were doing beginning messenger speech and thinking about whether we could do some more readings from ancient texts, particularly ancient tragedies, comedies, philosophies, etc. Now you guys have been putting in some wonderful suggestions and I've been having a look at those over the past couple of weeks and I've come up with a sort of final list of ones which I think are going to be kind of really fun to read out. And what we are going to do is go and try this and do these as live readings. So I'm committing to you to be giving you my dramatic all live in readings from ancient tragedy over the next week. So we're going to do a daily live read every day next week. Well, Monday to Thursday next week. So the 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th of June next week at 1 p.m. lunchtime, a lunchtime daily live dose of ancient tragedy. And we're going to be doing this not on Facebook, but we're actually going to be doing this through YouTube Live. So to be able to enjoy and get on board with this, you need to make sure that you're following the channel on YouTube. So that's the Professor Michael Scott channel on YouTube, and set yourself up to get notifications of when I go live. So I'll be doing YouTube Live, which you very kindly enabled for me by joining in your numbers the YouTube page a little while ago. But join. Then we will be doing at 1 p.m. next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, live readings of ancient tragedy. And I can even tell you what we're going to be doing to whet your appetite on particular days. On the 8th, on Monday the 8th, we're visiting Sophocles' Antigone, and I'm going to be doing the speech where Haemon, the son of the ruler Creon, tries to persuade his father to spare Antigone's life, to balance out the need for revenge with the need for justice and compassion. On the 9th, Tuesday is the 9th, we're going to be delving into Euripides' Electra, one of your very popular choices, and may I say, slightly bloody choice as well, because we're doing the speech in particular you like, where Electra stands over the body of the murdered Aegisthus, the lover of her mother, Clytemnestra, and joint murderer of her father, and it's a pretty bloody speech indeed. And then on Wednesday the 10th, Euripides' Bacchae, and again, this is one of your choices, and my lordy, this is a pretty dramatic speech. It's the messenger speech where he explains and relates how poor old Pantheus was torn to shreds by his mother. Okay, and then on Thursday the 11th, we're dialing back to Aeschylus's Agamemnon, and we're doing the speech when Agamemnon returns home for the first time and walks into his home full of prophetic ideas about what is about to befall him, but himself completely oblivious to it all. So I can't wait for these. I will try not to muck them up too much, but I beg your indulgence because they will be going out live. And hopefully, if I muck them up too much, I'll then do a later recording of them, which we can put up on the YouTube channel. And the live one should then be recorded also and be up later for you to watch on the YouTube channel. And there's a couple of others as well, great other passages that you wanted, going across a whole number actually of not just ancient plays, but ancient texts, a bit of Plato, for example, which I'll be recording as well and putting up there on the YouTube channel for you to enjoy at any time you like. Kate Coles, brilliant. Yes, the old classic joke, going into a tailor with a pair of trousers and the tailor says to you, Euripides, and you go to him, Eumenides. Yes, these are the kind of classics jokes that we like. Brilliant. So please do, if you can, at lunchtime, 1 p.m. UK time, next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, please do join me on YouTube Live, and we'll put all this up on the Facebook page, obviously, but on YouTube Live through the Professor Michael Scott channel on YouTube, we will be going live with a reading of ancient tragedy. Wish me luck, break a leg, etc. Okay, so those are the announcements. My golly gosh, everything's exciting happening. We've had 84-year-old Liz enjoying the Facebook page and all the resources. We've had prize winners. We've had new community groups being launched, and now we're doing YouTube live recordings. What could possibly come next? Well, I'll tell you what's coming next, your questions. And we start with one that had me completely foxed for a while. So, Chantel Brion, thank you so much for this question that came in. And it actually came in live last time, but while we were doing the Q&A, but I didn't have a chance to catch it. and certainly wouldn't have had the information to hand in my head to be able to answer it. So this one took a bit of head scratching and a little bit of digging as well. And it's a deceptively simple question. Were the ancient Greek Olympic Games started with homing pigeons? Now, I have to admit, Chantal, I read this and went, you what? Homing pigeons? No, I've never heard anything about that. Where has that come from at all? At least my halo is just off centre. Yes, it is. Very, 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 very distinctly for intentional purposes. This is no need for halos behind my head at all. This is the clock of time that we are all governed by, which I like having in the background very much indeed. But no halo whatsoever. But Chantal, so you were asking about homing pigeons at the ancient Olympic Games. And to be honest, frankly, I've studied the Olympics quite a lot, and I had never heard of homing pigeons having anything to do with the Olympic Games. So I had a little Google around to see where this idea might have come from. And quite quickly you find that in all the many, it seems, publications dedicated to homing pigeons, which frankly I didn't realise there were quite so many, there is quite a folklore tale that homing pigeons, or the use of homing pigeons, dates back to the time of the ancient Olympic Games. Partly because when the Olympic Games were reinstituted in 1896 by Pierre de Coubertin, one of the things they reinstituted was the use of homing pigeons that were released at the opening of the Olympic Games. And then there was an awful lot of kerfuffle, apparently, that we didn't do this in London in 2012 at the opening of the Olympic Games. We did it sort of beforehand in Manchester with the Queen's Pigeons instead of doing it at the real Olympic Games. And one of the reasons, apparently, that people have gone off releasing homing pigeons at the launch of the Olympic Games, at the Olympic Games opening ceremony, is because in Seoul, back in 1988, I think it was, they launched a whole bunch of homing pigeons who promptly then went and nested, instead of flying off somewhere, went and nested in the cauldron where they were about to light the Olympic flame. And so there's these pictures of these poor homing pigeons getting a rather rude awakening as this flame shoots up into the air and sends some of them flying, but actually catches some of them and makes them rather crispy. Yes, surely they should be, says Nicola, Homer pigeons. Oh yes, you've got it. Oh yes, the classics jokes are coming thick and fast today. So after the poor Olympics of Seoul and the rather crispy burnt homing pigeons, apparently they went off this idea of launching homing pigeons before they had lit the Olympic flame, and so they started doing it, if they did it at all, way before the lighting of the Olympic flame. Good evening from Melbourne. Hello, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us. Indeed, we're talking about homing pigeons and the ancient Olympic Games. Now, Chantal, so this had me completely in stitches. Well, I mean, obviously it's a great shame and very sorry, but also completely in stitches. But I was still none the wiser for where there might be a link, or at least some evidence for the use of homing pigeons in the ancient Olympic Games, because there didn't seem to be a claim that the ancient Olympic Games used homing pigeons to announce the opening ceremony. But instead, I kept coming across this claim that ancient Greeks used homing pigeons to send home from Olympia to their home cities to announce that they'd been victorious in a particular sport or competition, so that by the time they arrived home, the home community could have got the celebrations ready, could have put the ouzo kind of on ice and the good old Greek wine cooling so that they were ready to party. Now, this was very interesting. I hadn't heard anything about this before, but I couldn't see any evidence for it. Then finally, I came across some evidence for it, which is actually in the Roman writer Ovid, talking about a Greek athletic victor at the Olympic Games called Tarosthenes, who apparently stained a pigeon purple and then let it go to fly home all the way from Olympia to the island of Aegina, which is quite some distance. So this poor old pigeon would have had to go across the whole of the Peloponnese, then across the sea a little bit to the island of Aegina that's off the coast of Athens, to give notice to his father of his victory at the Olympics. So this doesn't seem, from the available source material that we have, to have been a regular thing that was always done. You know, at the end of the Olympic Games, they tie little notes to a whole bunch of pigeons' feet and send them off, scatter them to the four corners of the ancient Greek world to announce the victors. Not least because some parts of the Greek world were very far away indeed. I have no idea what the maximum range of a homing pigeon is, but kind of, you know, if you had to go from Olympia all the way to Sicily, for instance, or indeed all the way to Leptis Magna or Cyrene on the coast of North Africa, I would feel very sorry for that homing pigeon. And obviously they weren't tying little notes to them. It wasn't as complicated as that. The evidence suggests that this was a one-off kind of more individual thing that was occasionally done, and was done simply by you staining this poor pigeon purple. And we don't get to hear whether Tarosthenes stained him permanently purple, or whether it was a wash-offable purple, or kind of what happened, or whether this poor old pigeon, after he delivered his news, had to walk around for the rest of his life permanently stained purple. Anyway, Chantal, brilliant question, took me completely by surprise and then took me down a rabbit hole. So now I know an awful lot more about homing pigeons than I ever thought I ever would want to know, and also know about the fate of the poor pigeons of the Seoul Olympics in 1988, but equally amazingly know something new about the ancient world as well, dating back to good old Tarosthenes through the filter, obviously, of the later Roman writer of it. And we have a couple of more examples within the Roman world of using homing pigeons as messenger pigeons. So it seems perhaps to have been a Roman thing that potentially the Roman writers are talking about having happened at the Olympic Games, but we can't necessarily know that for sure. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant question, Chantal. Fabulous. Right, let me stop for a second on answering questions. I know, J. Matthew Reeves, maximum range of a homing pigeon is 1,100 miles. My God, we are just a fact-finding mission, this group today. Thank you so much. And if you are tuning in for the first time, don't worry, we don't spend every half an hour talking about the ancient world and homing pigeons. Although it feels like this is a brilliant topic to spend half an hour on. Linda asks, was purple a significant colour? Well, in the Roman world, yes, absolutely. Purple was the colour of wealth, because purple was one of the rarest and most expensive colours to make in the Roman world. It came from a particular sea snail that only grew off the coast of sort of around Tyre, so in the southeast Mediterranean, and you needed something like 10,000 sea snails to then squeeze out a particular gland of these sea snails to produce enough dye to turn about an ounce of cloth deep purple. So it was incredibly expensive. It was the sign of imperial authority, of wealth, of victory, of luxury. So that might be where the idea of purple is coming from. But again, it's coming through that Roman filter, then being transposed back onto the Greek world. So there we go. Quickly, some of the brilliant things that have been happening. From The Guardian, amateur archaeologists redraw the map of Roman Britain by coming up with a whole series of telltale, as previously unknown settlements and miles of road linking Roman forts down in Cornwall and Devon. So the project suggests that Bodmin Moor in Cornwall and Dartmoor in Devon were much more populous than previously had been thought. Fantastic. Ian asks, did the Greeks sacrifice pigeons? We're now absolutely fixated on pigeons. Not that I'm aware of. No sacrificing of pigeons. I can't think of a religious sanctuary where it was prescribed that pigeons had to be sacrificed as opposed to goats or pigs or sheep or kind of bulls or kind of more bigger, more substantial animals. You could, of course, do oracular determination through the flight of birds. That was absolutely spot on. You definitely could use them for oracular divination if you couldn't for sacrifice. The weirdest bird, I have to admit, the weirdest bird I've ever had the chance of eating, J. Matthew Reeves talks about the tastiness of pigeons, is I once ate a bat curry. Now, in the light of COVID-19 and how we think COVID-19 first spread, kind of in China, and particularly with the wet markets through sort of bats and bat feces, etc., moving it through to animals and then to humans, I'm not so excited about this, but I did once eat a bat curry. And I have to say that there was a disappointing amount of meat in my bat curry because there isn't much meat on a bat, although the meat that was there was very tasty. So there we go, pigeons to bats and moving on. The Roman Mosaic, you must have been blown away by this just as I was. Outside of Verona, where they've come in a vineyard, they've discovered a beautiful preserved mosaic under the earth that they're uncovering. It's just sensational as it comes out of the earth. So that's kind of being uncovered. But also in Serbia, coal mines are giving up Roman ships in Serbia, kind of being discovered that have been plonked there. Absolutely brilliant and amazing. Julie, you are batty. Yes, thank you very much. You are not the first person, Julie, to tell me that indeed. Some of the great things that are going on as we continue to build our resources. I know some of us have been going back to school, some of our young ones have been going back to school, but not all, and many are still homeschooling. So keep it out there. So in Coventry, the Warwick Classics Network that I co-run with Paul Grigsby out of the Warwick Classics department, we are starting off a great new project, which is calling all Coventry schools, teachers and pupils to get together to delve into the Roman history of Coventry. We want to get to every single Coventry school pupil to explore this history over the course of 2021, when of course Coventry will be the city of culture. We've also been putting up a whole series of GCSE Greek texts on the Warwick Classics Network website, so you can explore those as well if you like. The Latin programme is a team that I've worked with before in the past, and they are partnering with the Classical Association to offer a online Latin programme summer school. So if you're interested in this, the links will be on the Facebook page. This is for pupils 7 to 14. Then also Natalie Haynes, as I'm sure you've been following as well. She's been doing a great series of videos through the lockdown process. Her Stands Up for the Classics is now available on BBC Sounds, but also you can see her talking about lots of Ovid, lots of naughty things in Ovid as well through the Facebook page. The hardback and audio book of The Siege of Troy, retold by Stephen Fry, is coming out soon. And also, very close to my heart, Paul Cartledge, one of the great kind of writers of ancient Greek history, particularly, of course, focused on Sparta, then more recently Athens, and now he's turned his attention to Thebes. So he's written a great history of Thebes, and I had a read of this, thankfully, very, very gratefully, in copy stage, because I gave one of the quotes that's on the sort of back cover of the book, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's a must-read, so get on and have a look at that. Rome's Invisible City, if you saw it, was replayed on Monday night on BBC 4, and I wanted to flag to you guys that Scan Labs, who do all the fantastic 3D visualizations for those programs and all the other Invisible City shows as well, have actually developed an online shop where you can buy beautiful quality prints of some of the incredible scans from the different locations in these shows. Now, I saw these and I just couldn't stop myself. I got one as well. So mine's going to be very proudly on my wall. I went for the Pantheon in Rome. Absolutely incredible structure and building, blows my mind every time. So do have a look at that. That's at shop.scanlabprojects.co.uk. And kind of thank you, as ever. Some brilliant questions coming in. We are almost out of time. Can you believe it? It's already just gone 25 past. Shane, absolutely, yes, I wanted to flag this as one. Helen Morales' Antigone Rising. Absolutely brilliant book to get hold of, particularly thinking about how important it is that classics and the study of classics and those who study the classical world think about how the study of classics has been used, particularly over the last century and a half, to further or prop up all sorts of ideas, ideologies, standpoints, viewpoints of the world that we might now really want to disagree with. And this is Helen Morales' Antigone Rising, is thinking brilliantly about how the classical world has been used to hold up a whole series of very kind of stereotypical anti-feminist stances, but equally how we can use the classical world to break all of those down. And so I think that's the crucial job for us now, is not only to be sensitive to the ways in which classics has been used in the past, which we would not now agree with by any means, but also be fully convinced of the power of classics to actually break all of those same boundaries down for us in the future. So kind of that's brilliant and well worth having a look at. Have we got time for one more question before we run out of time? I can't believe we've run out of time already. It was those pigeons. I blame the pigeons. Latifa Walker's asked, what drew you and continues to draw you into studying the Silk Roads? Well, I wanted to get into this more because there's actually been quite a number of questions that have come in thinking about the Silk Roads and that bigger, wider expanse of the ancient world that the ancient Greeks and Romans and the Mediterranean world were definitely connected into. And we will be next week able to flag a lecture, an online lecture that I'm doing for the British School at Athens, which will be coming up on the 24th of June, so the 24th of this month, where I'm going to be talking exactly about that and Greek perspectives on their much, much bigger ancient world that they were increasingly being drawn into. So that's going to be an online lecture which you can subscribe to, get a unique Zoom code to be able to join and listen to that lecture and ask your questions. We'll be advertising that link for you to be able to sign up for a place next Monday, the 8th of June, through the Facebook page. So do sign up for that if you would like. Places are limited, obviously, because of the what Zoom is capable of handling. But kind of have a think about that, and very much hope you can join me for that lecture on the 24th. But Latifa, in short answer, it goes back to that idea that we have to be sensitive to the way classics has been used to support certain stereotypes and worldviews, but also how classics can be used to break those down. And I got completely fed up with the fact that the way the study of the Greeks and Romans seems to be curtailed within this geographical and chronological zone, as if it was living in isolation from the much, much bigger ancient world of which it was a part, and in isolation from those very many other amazing communities that were living contemporaneously with them. So the Roman Empire was exactly contemporaneous with the Han Empire over in China. Between them, they were ruling something like a third to a half of the world's population at the time, and they were connected. This is the crucial thing. Perhaps not directly. There weren't necessarily in the early centuries CE Romans turning up in China, and certainly not Chinese turning up in Rome. But they knew about one another, they were thinking about one another, and they were receiving goods from one another. And as a result, they were both impacting and affecting one another. So my feeling is that we can use classics, and we can turn this new classics, this new global classics, where we're not just studying the Greeks and Romans, but we're actually seeing them as part of a much wider set of ancient communities, to completely overturn a lot of the Western-centric thinking that classics has been really used to support in the last particularly 100 years. And sadly, particularly in America right now, is being used to support even more vociferously in this current time frame. So that's what got me into the Silk Roads, and what we will dedicate perhaps the next session of the Q&A to answering all your questions about those wider communities. There's been quite a few of them coming in, but we are already out of time. Next time, so live Q&A, we will do next time on Thursday the 18th of June, and that will be at 2 p.m. So join me in 2 weeks' time on the 18th of June for our live Q&A, and we'll keep that one Silk Roads focused. In the meantime, tomorrow we'll launch the Professor Michael Scott Classics Community Group page, allowing you guys to have your discussions, perhaps focused around those places that we were talking about and you've been saying you want to visit. We can share ideas, and perhaps, as you've been saying here on the Q&A, even when we can in the future, when COVID-19 has gone down, has gone away, finally organise a group visit out to some of these sites. Equally, next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1 p.m. UK time, I'll be doing my live readings of ancient tragedy, so look forward to that. And also next week, we'll be broadcasting the link for you to join in for my BSA lecture on the 24th of June. So everyone, take care. Remember, if you see a pigeon in the sky, and particularly if it is painted purple, not that I'm endorsing the painting of pigeons for any reason whatsoever, it may well be an Olympic victor sending home news of their victory. And whatever you do, if you decide to get a pigeon or a homing pigeon, release it long before you start the barbecue. That's my advice to you for this weekend. Take care, stay safe, stay well, look after yourselves and one another. Take care, bye.